Hello, I'm Dr. Jeanette Raymond, psychologist, psychotherapist, and relationship expert, here with part 4 of my series on triangular relationships and how difficult they are for smooth and happy connections. The focus today is going to be on the triangle between two spouses or partners who don't have a great deal of security. Sometimes they get along fine. Sometimes the wife feels that her husband wants too much for her and she wants to do her own thing. So then he feels rejected and he has to back off. But when he backs off, he has a terrible fear that she doesn't love him anymore and that she's focusing on someone from her past, an ex-boyfriend, an ex-lover who he thinks is still his competitor. So I call this a triangle, with the third leg being the ghost of the past. And so whenever there's insecurity between a couple, when one of them wants the other more, wants to be closer, wants to have more sex, wants to be more closed in as a couple, and the other one doesn't, the other one wants more freedom, do things on their own, they want a looser relationship, then the ghost of the past comes in to triangulate them, to push them aside. And what usually happens is, if it's the husband who's insecure, like in the relationship I just spoke about, then he will have all sorts of terrible fantasies about her ex-boyfriends. He'll remember all the times when she used to talk about how nice they were when they first met, and he has fantasies that she now wants them. That the reason she's rejecting him or moving away from him or wanting freedom is because she's comparing her husband to all her past lovers, or one in particular, and that he comes up short. So he gets very anxious, wound up, and what does he do? He tries to ramp up his seduction. So he wants to please her, he takes her breakfast in bed, he does the laundry, does the cooking, takes her out, buys her flowers, organizes weekends away, fantastic vacations. And how does she receive it? She feels choked, suffocated, and wants to withdraw even more. In her mind, there is no ghost of the past. She's already said she wanted to be with this person. She chose to marry them. She chose to live with them. She chose to have children with them. She chose to have a family life. But what she didn't choose to do was to feel that her husband needs her that much that he has to swallow her up and stop her from having a life outside him. So this is a dance of intimacy that's very common, but in this particular relationship, it's the ghost of the past that comes to haunt the couple. So the guy thinks that her past boyfriends or boyfriend particular, maybe she was even engaged at one time, that they were the ones she really wanted, and he's not good enough and he needs to prove it. So he challenges her, he tries to outdo them, and that doesn't work. And then he challenges her, well, maybe you don't love me, maybe you didn't want to marry me, maybe you wished you hadn't. And so that then puts her on the defensive. And so they have quarrels and conflicts, and this is what comes in to my professional therapy office. And what I find is that the fear of getting close and being intimate is the essence of what's wrong with the couple. The woman is afraid that if she gets too close emotionally with her husband, he'll swallow her up because nothing's ever enough. He just wants more and more and more and more. And the husband is terribly afraid that the more freedom she has, the more she gets to do things outside, whether it's for work or for her hobbies or whatever, the less she's going to think of him. She's going to constantly compare him to people and find him less than. She's going to fantasize about her exes, and he'll always be on the outside. He'll always be on the periphery. He'll never be on her radar. And so he uses these people from her past to taunt her, to tease her, to kind of goad her into saying, no, I chose you, I want you. So he wants to get a big reaction to force her to choose him, to come back within his embrace. But all it does is make her feel stifled. It makes her feel that she can't be herself, and it makes her then actually look at other men and see what's around. So it actually backfires on the man. Now, why does this happen in couples, you might ask? Well, let's look at this couple I just said. In terms of the man who was insecure and wanting his wife to be closer, and then imagining all these ghosts of the past that she might prefer, when he was growing up, his parents had a very tumultuous marriage. They were always fighting, and his parents were always threatening to go with other people and find each other wanting. So he grew up with that. That was in his blood, in his bones, in his DNA. And so when things go a little bit awry, when things are not smooth in his own marriage, all that stuff comes up, and he might as well be the 8-year-old or the 10-year-old who was terrified of his parents being divorced and trying to be a good boy and do all the good things to please them so they would stay together. And of course he's doing the same thing now. He's doing all the good things, laundry, breakfast in bed, out, taking out flowers, romance, everything. And of course it doesn't work. She appreciates it, but she also knows that it's kind of not genuine, and he's scared of losing her, so she's feeling and wanting to move out, but she has to be polite. Well, what happened in her family when she was growing up to make her so afraid of being close? In her family, her mother was the one who had affairs, and she was a product of an affair. She saw her mother and her biological father have huge, vicious interactions where they threatened violence, where her mother used her to threaten her father. She became a pawn, and so she didn't want to be close to either of them, because neither of them were giving her nurturing and care and solace and security and comfort. So she grew up being afraid of having any closeness to any one person. So when she met her husband, he was suffering from the fear of divorce and trying to keep his parents together, and she was suffering from being suffocated by one or other parent or being used by them. So they found in each other solace and comfort. But later on, when the marriage was many years older, all their old stuff came back to haunt them, and they ended up in this very, very difficult place. And this was a cycle they kept repeating. And it was only when they came into my therapy office and really worked on it, and I helped explain to each of them how their histories brought them to this place, and how his insecurity clashed with her need to have space between herself and a loved one so she didn't get used as a pawn, that it was all being relived. And it took us a long, long, long time for healing and comfort. But every now and again, that issue crops up, the cycle repeats, and they're back in my office, and we go through it all over again, and it calms down for a while. But this is the triangle of ghosts of the past, where one person fantasizes that they're not good enough because their partner is imagining all the exes that she gave up for him, and therefore she's not loving him anymore because now she's comparing him to them and wishing she had chosen them instead of him. It's about insecurity, it's about a fear of intimacy, and when they clash, this is what we get. So in this triangle, ghosts of the past come in as a wedge, and it really has to be worked out given each one's history. So I'd love to know what your experiences are in this context, and what you think and what you're struggling with if this is happening to you or someone you know. Bye for now, and see you next week.